Close-Up is brought to you by the Kia Sorento R, redefining the power of Kia.
As a kid, Hans Berggraf enjoyed swimming in the Bay of Plenty lakes, but his kids don't because the water's too filthy. It's taken one generation to turn the lakes into health hazards. And Hans is determined, with the help of pretty out there technology, to turn the clocks and the lakes back. Here's Michael Holland.
This is just a magic place, this little lake.
Postcard perfection on a crisp winter's day.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a spectacular vista.
Beneath the sparkle and shimmer, though,
It's just a shame that, it can't be used as it should.
a lurking menace awaiting the warmth of summer to bloom.
Too much algae growing. The reality is there's too many nutrients in the lake and we've got to get that right.
If you've got plenty of nutrients, then there's plenty of possibility for algae to grow.
For nutrients, read nitrogen, the legacy of intensive farming and forestry.
Algae is basically just the same as any plant. If you want to make it grow, you put fertiliser on it, so nitrogen's a fertiliser. If we can get rid of the fertiliser or the nitrogen, then it reduces the amount of algae.
Enter then a creation that wouldn't look out of place on Loch Ness, one of two giant aeration machines designed to breathe new life into Lake Rotorua.
Just gives it a helping hand. That's what we're trying to do, is just let the biology do what it needs to do. No chemicals, no tricks, just support the natural systems.
1 teaspoonful of water, 2,000 or 3,000 algae cells.
That's right. All those little dust particles, like dust particles, they're each a living cell. In summer you get the right combination of higher water temperature, lots of light, lots of nutrients, and that'll stimulate a bloom. And then you'll get an explosion.
Those unsightly and potentially toxic algae scums far from the mind of Hans Berggraf when he enjoyed the Bay of Plenty lakes as a child. Sadly not so his own children.
Toxic blooms, health warnings, lake closures.
Spurring him to put on his engineer's hat and try to find a solution.
That was sort of an uneasy feeling, to think that in this great country of ours where we're clean and green, is that there were actually things that my kids couldn't do that I could.
The answer to that generational decline in water quality is ingeniously simple. The machines pump air bubbles throughout the lake, reinvigorating the oxygen-depleted lower levels and keeping the nitrogen at bay.
It will mix the water and stop some of the low oxygen levels that we see in the bottom waters of the lake. And those low oxygen waters are what leads to a release of those legacy nutrients, the old nutrients that have been locked up for a long time. We're trying to put more oxygen into the bottom, these tiny fine bubbles, and those bubbles lift cold water at the bottom, deoxygenated water, take it to the surface and start a whole mixing through the whole water column of the lake.
If we can keep the temperature the same from the top of the lake to the bottom of the lake, then all the sediments are oxygenated and the whole system functions as it should. The nutrients stay locked up and bound in the sediment.
Every 15 minutes it's taking measurements of oxygen and temperature, surface and bottom, so we'll have a very up-to-date knowledge of exactly what's happening in the water.
The aerator's working in tandem with another weapon in the fight against nitrogen, an artificial wetland.
It's like walking on a waterbed, really, isn't it?
So what are we walking on exactly?
This is a non-woven mat made from recycled Coke bottles, and then it's got buoyancy injected into it so that it floats. These plants here have a big root system underneath the floating wetland, and the root system is what's aiding taking nitrogen out of the water, a nutrient out of the water, and it's releasing it to the atmosphere, and then it's not available for algae growth.
Promising initial results leading to the installation of the country's largest floating wetland on nearby Lake Rotorua.
Once we get the complete coverage of the plants, and hopefully that'll come in spring, then the nutrient uptake is going to be very high.
As for the giant mixer cum bubble maker down deep,
If you provide the biology with what it needs, it knows what to do. We're the same. We don't have to think about how should I heal my cut. The biology knows what to do if we give it the right tools.
And the lake breathes a sigh of relief.
And the lake breathes.
And your children will swim in algae-free lakes.
I hope so. I sincerely hope so. Yes, I think there's every chance that in a very short time we can have much cleaner lakes, and I can take my kids to all the places that I used to go to.
Wow, that was fascinating. Now look, it's all part of a $10 million, 10-year project to help clean up the Bay of Plenty.